So today I want to talk about essentially what is going on with Xbox, how their future looks. Should we have been surprised by this? But more importantly, I'm kind of curious as to what my viewers think about the Xbox situation because honestly, sometimes when I talk about this, I almost feel like my mentality is outdated. My mentality of exclusive sell consoles, and that's why you buy a specific console, is kind of an antiquated thought process. Obviously, there's a newer generation of gamers out there. Maybe they think a little bit differently. Maybe some of you guys are a part of that newer generation. But when I look at Xbox, I can't help but feel like this is a situation where it is just, kind of throw things at the wall and see what sticks. You know what I'm saying? Like a bunch of different ideas, because there has been a bunch of different ideas dating all the way back to the Xbox One. But a bunch of different ideas, throw them at the wall. If something sticks, great. We continue with that. If something doesn't stick, like Connect, we get rid of it. We pretend that it never existed. And seeing how Xbox is handling this generation has been, a very stark contrast to what we've seen in previous generations from them. From the original Xbox trying to be a competitor to the Xbox 360 being the default console of choice, then to the Xbox One, which was just handled terribly, to the Xbox Series. And when you look at what Xbox is doing in 2025 as far as, Xbox games, I think this could have been one of their strongest years ever. You're not going to supersede the PlayStation 5 console sales or anything like that. You're probably not going to become the top dog or the default console, but you could have made an impact. You could have made quite a big splash. You could have potentially started to change the tides in being the default console. But it doesn't seem like Xbox is really interested in that. I think Forza Horizon 5 is kind of the telltale sign that, hey, you know what? Nothing is off the table anymore. And if anything, you should probably expect Xbox games to come to other platforms because they see it as a way to generate game sales. They see it as a way to generate revenue. And I don't think that that inherently, in and of itself, is, a bad idea. People are obviously going to buy Xbox games on other platforms if they only own a PlayStation or they only own a Nintendo platform. If that's the only way that they can play a game like Forza Horizon 5, that's the only way they could play a game like potentially the Master Chief Collection, then I could see people wanting to buy those games. And I could see people wanting to check those games out on their platform of choice. And yes, there would be money made. But just from a strictly business perspective, those games cost money to develop. They cost money to port to other platforms. You're not getting a big of a cut on a Microsoft game that sells on a PlayStation platform or a Nintendo platform as you would a Microsoft game selling on a Microsoft platform. A Microsoft user getting into something like Game Pass and potentially giving you monthly revenue. So is it, does the ends justify the means? Is it really worth the trouble of having to pay for someone to port this game to the other system, and then you have to do marketing for that game, which honestly, the marketing will be done by the other companies because Xbox marketing has just been absolutely atrocious for like the last decade. Is it worth it in the end? Yes, you might get some revenue right now, but what about the long term? And I think that's something that really sticks out in my mind with this situation and why I don't think the situation has gone over well with older gamers and Xbox fans just has to be because of the fact that Xbox has lied to you like so many times. Dating back to all these acquisitions, The point of Xbox buying companies like Bethesda was because they were trying to bolster their first party lineup. You want to play the Bethesda games? You come on over to Xbox. They bought these studios to make games for Xbox, and then I guess they realized, hey, we spent a lot of freaking money on these studios, and the Xbox player base isn't quite where it needs to be right now. So why buy these studios if that's what the ultimate goal was? They were already making multi-platform games. You didn't have to go out of your way to purchase up all of these studios. And let's be realistic. When you purchase up all these studios, are they really doing a bunch of super interesting things specifically for you? Have they been doing things specifically for you? I understand. It takes time. It takes a long time for things like that to come about because we live in this era of overinflated game budgets and super long development cycles. But when you're right there at the finish line and you could see the light at the end of the tunnel, to kind of divert and go in a different direction, it's very startling to me. I know a lot of people like to say, oh, well, Xbox is essentially doing what Sega did. You know, it's a very somewhat similar situation between how Sega and the Dreamcast, which should have been a wild success, you know, unfortunately, due to Sega's financial situation and the changing of the marketplace over to the PlayStation 2 being such a dominant console, that Sega ended up leaving the marketplace. And then, of course, Xbox was essentially like a Dreamcast too. You had games like a new Crazy Taxi, a new Jet Set, a new Panzer Dragoon on the Xbox. So it was kind of like a spiritual successor. The emphasis on things like online multiplayer and stuff like that, it was pretty exciting. But the difference is when Sega went out of business on the hardware side of things, there was a multitude of different devices to put your games on. Multiple handhelds, multiple consoles, multiple console manufacturers. The industry was on an upswing still. The industry was still in this growth phase. The industry didn't require 6-7 years to make a big budget game. You could make games in 2 years, 2-3 years, and 3 years was stretching it. Think back to something like Resident Evil 2. That game was the sequel to Resident Evil 1, did so many things differently, and that took 2 years to make, and that was considered like a really long time for a sequel. It was a different era back then. And Sega managed to position themselves by purchasing a company like Atlas, you know, to bolster their lineup. And yes, there's been ups and downs, but Sega has those brands attached to it. And Xbox does have some brands, but if Xbox is to diminish their console to the point of where it's kind of like, why am I buying an Xbox if I could just play these games on other platforms? Now the competition really just comes down to PlayStation and Nintendo. And I understand there's PC. You guys know I'm not a PC gamer. But with only two companies manufacturing hardware, and really two companies in very different trajectories, I can't say that word for some reason, but two different mindsets, two different paths of where they want to follow for consoles and stuff like that. Is it worth doing? Is it worth the attempt if the results are not going to be, you know, super fruitful to you? But I think the biggest thing with this, and really the thing that a lot of people don't necessarily realize, is Microsoft can afford this easily. It's whether they want to entertain this idea or not. Xbox to Microsoft, yes, it generates gross revenue. You know, you got to look at the fine print with some of that stuff. But Microsoft is such a rich company that has so much money. They don't know what to do with all of this money. So having something like Xbox is almost like this little project brand, you know, this brand that they can just try different things with. Microsoft is not above something failing, but they keep making it. The Surface tablets were supposed to be a replacement for the iPads. Never caught on, really. It does okay-ish, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. You know, sometimes businesses, and, you know, I know the NFL used Surface tablets for a while. I'm not sure if they still do. but it's more of a thing where Microsoft probably provided those Surface tablets, and yet Surface tablets still get made. They still update them. They just want a little foothold in the marketplace. And maybe that's what they want with Xbox. You know? Everything is an Xbox. I mean, maybe. Maybe it is. Maybe it is, and a lot of us just have a bit of an outdated mindset when it comes to what a console is. Because to be fair, we know that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be a dedicated, hybrid console. We know that Nintendo is still going to do what they want to do. I don't know if you could say the same about something like the PlayStation 6, though. I don't know if you could say that the PlayStation 6 is definitely going to have physical media and it's definitely going to be, a beefed up PlayStation 5 or something like that. With the law of diminishing returns, we are getting to a point with the video game industry where it's like, well, what's next? Is there a next? And is the next something that, gamers of today would want to see? Games are flopping at an alarming rate. Layoffs are happening left and right. Companies shutting down. So maybe Xbox is the smart one in all of this. Time will tell with this situation. Time will tell, because, you could compare it to Sega, but I just feel like it's very different. I feel like it is a very different thing. Sega always had a power struggle with the West and the East divisions of Sega. As far as hardware was concerned, Sega of America wanted to do things that Sega of Japan didn't want to do, vice versa. It goes all the way back to Sonic CD versus Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Very, very different structures. So there was turmoil within that company, and it was internal turmoil, but you don't really hear about that with Microsoft. It seems like everyone, Nadella to Spencer to Booty to Bond, they're all cool with this idea. They all think that this idea is going to work. Everything is an Xbox. Play your Xbox games wherever you want. Play them on the console of your choice if that's what you want to do. I don't know, man. I honestly, I feel like I dunk on Xbox quite a bit, but I like Xbox. I like my Xbox Series X. It is my default console for third-party games. The only time I ever play my PlayStation 5 is for exclusives. I like the controller better. I like the interface better. I like Xbox Live better. And to finally see them kind of, turning the corner with this, to seeing games like Fable, Perfect Dark, Gears of War E-Day, the recent Indiana Jones, damn. You finally did it. You finally set yourself up for success. You finally have a bunch of banger games coming out. One already has released. Maybe give me another Forza Horizon. But now it's just we're putting everything everywhere. So don't worry about buying the hardware. And if that's the case, is it worth it to make the hardware? Or is it a Microsoft Surface tablet situation where it's somebody will buy one. And, if we sell a couple of them, it's worth it. We can make updates. We can make upgrades. But like I said at the start of this video, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Because I tried to look at this from a lens of both perspectives. A lens of a consumer perspective, a business perspective, a casual perspective, kind of just all encompassing. Because if you're a casual gamer and you see these PlayStation or these Xbox games, coming in mass droves over to PlayStation, does that make you want to buy an Xbox system or just buy an Xbox game on another platform? And if so, don't you feel like if you bought an Xbox system and then you bought games on the Xbox, you would make more money doing that? I don't know. But I want your thoughts in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. I know I was really all over the place, very scatterbrained with this video, but it's just a Sunday discussion. I'm still reeling from the fact that the Knicks lost to the Lakers. Royal Rumble wasn't all that great. I can't stand Charlotte Flair. And then Luka traded to the Lakers for AD. You gonna investigate that, NBA? You gonna do something with that? Like, holy, this is the biggest scandal ever. You trying to get the heat off of something? You trying to get, the Terry Rozier situation, Scary Terry gambling on games that he was in? Huh? Adam Silver is a terrible person. Guantanamo Bay. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Be sure to give me your thoughts in the comment section down below. This is a video that I want a lot of interaction on. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.